Good afternoon and welcome to SnapTech IT's monthly webinar. My name is Ted Hulsey. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for SnapTech IT and your host for today's event. Thanks for joining in for the live session. This webinar will be recorded and circulated to all registrants. The topic for today is Life Hack My Microsoft 365. I am joined by our President and CEO of the company. So first up, is Sean Brown, SnapTech IT's President and COO. Sean, welcome.
Good afternoon, Ted. How are we doing today?
Doing great. And we're also welcomed by SnapTech's CEO, Carl Bickmore. Carl, welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to talk about this. It's going to be a great one today.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. So today, we're really going to be slide light and demo heavy. So, I think when we look across what our clients are experiencing and what small and medium businesses are experiencing across the board is, I think today, I looked up the statistics the other day, Microsoft has 89% market share of the cloud productivity and Office suite space, and Google has like roughly 11% market share. So virtually, you could say almost everybody has the Microsoft 365 suite. What we see, though, is that there's a huge variance of adoption of the whole suite and all the different technologies and applications, in the Microsoft suite. And that's really the inspiration for this webinar, which is we're trying to dig deeper. We're trying to explore the different areas of the Microsoft suite where we know our clients are maybe just scratching the surface and could take the adoption of the technology to a whole nother level. So today, let me give you a preview of what we're going to see. So Sean's going to come up first, and he's going to talk about Microsoft Teams, and he's going to talk about how what we're seeing with our clients in terms of where adoption and usage is growing and evolving. And he's going to really dig deeper on how you can use Microsoft Teams in the sales scenario. Every company needs to generate revenue. Every company has different sales processes, and Teams is something you can definitely be using in sales and external collaboration more. So that's what Sean's going to cover. Carl is going to take a look at file collaboration. And file collaboration, Carl could probably talk for about 3 hours on it today. Today he gets about 15 minutes. So
if we would let him, he would take all of that time.
Hey, I feel like somebody's coming at me here,
But it's a huge topic. It is really a huge topic. But Carl's going to do his best to give our point of view on how do you leverage the Microsoft suite and do the best-in-class file collaboration. And we're going to talk about a solution called Ignite and how it works with the Microsoft suite. And then I'm going to round things out and talk about Microsoft 365 and your time. How to use certain tools in the Microsoft suite for you just to be more productive in working with colleagues, working with customers and clients, and with your external business partners. So with that, that's the overview of the agenda. I'm going to turn things over to Sean now to just start the conversation around Teams and sales and what he's going to show you in the next couple of minutes. Sean, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Ted. All right. So we use Teams pretty extensively inside of our sales team, and not only for internal collaboration, but also with meetings with clients and prospects, and pretty much through our whole kind of sales process, we're leveraging Teams. And I'll get into a little bit of a demo here in a second and show you how I'm kind of leveraging like Calendly and how it kind of integrates in with Microsoft Teams. And I'll show you some examples of some Teams channels and some of the cool things that we kind of leverage. And I've got a little demo set up for us. So pretty cool stuff with that. If you're not aware, you can do video calls with Teams, which is really cool. And I'll show you how we can record those calls as well. So how about we jump into demo time? Okay. So we're going to hope that the demo demons don't jump out and get us today as we try to do this. So you want to kick it over to me real quick, and let's jump into a little bit of demo here. All right. Okay. So let me grab my correct screen. All right. So I think the screen that I'm showing everybody is my Calendly setup screen. Can I get a confirmation? Yep,
Yeah.
looks like so. Okay. So we leverage a tool called Calendly, and I'll show you how this kind of integrates in with Microsoft Teams and how we use this to schedule meetings with potential customers, and just our internal team as well. And so one of the cool things, and the reason why I wanted to kind of show the kind of setup here, is if I go back one, um, so I've got a number of different types of meetings kind of set up, and I'm going to go into the settings here and edit this kind of 30-minute meeting here inside Calendly. And if we look here at kind of what the event is for, you'll see that, you can kind of give it a name. So we've given it a 30-minute meeting. And then I've said that the location is actually going to be Microsoft Teams. You can edit this, and there's lots of different ones that you can pick. So you can do a Google or Zoom or a GoTo, kind of like, the tool that we're using today. But for us, we leverage Microsoft Teams whenever we do this. So if I schedule this as a Microsoft Teams and save it, I won't have to do that because we already have it saved. That kind of sets up this Calendly link that we can use, and our account managers and BDRs or anybody that has access to my link, and I'll show you that here in 1 second, can easily go in and schedule a meeting and see my calendar. All right, so here is what this looks like. And so if you were to grab my Calendly link, which is this one right here, if you want to schedule a meeting, there's my link. Feel free to go grab it, and you can see what my calendar looks like. So in this demo, you can see that I have picked tomorrow, Friday. And so we can see that tomorrow I've got some good availability. And so if I click on this 10:30 a.m. and kind of confirm it, we'll do just a typical John Doe, and I'll just enter in my normal kind of SnapTech email, and I am going to schedule this meeting. And so what'll happen is I'll get a calendar invite. The John Doe, this one works a little bit different since I'm sending it to myself, but John Doe would also get a calendar invite. And then let me show you kind of how this looks and works. So if we jump over to my Outlook and I go to my calendar, you can see I did one test earlier today with John Doe. Here's the one that we just scheduled. And you can see how this pops up right here on my calendar. John Doe, Sean Brown meeting. Here's the link. What's really kind of cool about this too, I kind of expand this out a little bit so we can see it better, is it's a pretty easy one click to get into a Teams meeting. But what's also neat for those that are not used to doing Teams meetings, there's an audio call in that you can leverage as well. And so this is a feature inside Microsoft Teams that you can have enabled and get a actual audio just dial in number that you can use. So if you want to dial in, you can just dial in. If you want to connect over Teams, you can do that as well. So as part of this demo, we're going to do a meeting inside of a meeting. And so this hopefully is going to work the way we want, but I'm going to go ahead and click join the meeting and show you a couple of things about what this looks like. So I am going to kind of turn off my audio just because hopefully I don't get a little reverb there. So let's not use any kind of audio in this one. And I'm going to join this meeting.
And it's probably not going to let you use the camera, of course, because GoToWebinar is using your camera. But so anyway. Oh, and it seems like it grabbed your audio. Well.
All right. Okay. How about we leave that and we don't do a meeting inside of a meeting? That's the demo demons I was talking about. So let me just talk through that a little bit.
Inception right there. I'm pretty sure we got to spin a top to make sure that nothing's in dream world.
Yeah, that's right. But so one of the things that we do a lot inside of a Teams kind of video meeting like that is you're able to kind of share a screen, very much like what we're sharing now. just like I'm sharing a screen now, you can share a screen inside Teams and share kind of sales collateral, do presentations inside there. One of the other things that we do sometimes is we will record the Teams meeting, whether it be a sales meeting or a presentation or whatever. So we may want to record it for, to go back and kind of review and take, some notes on it, or we'll use it from a training standpoint and show how to not do a demo inside of a demo where your audio cuts over because it thinks it's switching to Teams audio, even though you told it not to use audio. But anyway, so that's some of the ways that we kind of leverage Calendly inside Microsoft Teams to help us book meetings and do some presentations. So now what I'd like to kind of show, Ted, I'm going to go a little off script for you. I hope this is okay. But there's some cool things inside Teams that I want to kind of show. And so this is kind of our Teams environment that we use. But I did set up this demo sales team event. And so if you haven't been inside Teams before, this is kind of what it looks like. It's a kind of collaboration tool that you can use. There's chat features. There's Teams inside Teams, if that kind of makes sense to you. Phone calls, which is kind of an advanced feature, a calendar, and some files and different apps. And I'll kind of show you that here in a second as well. So to start with, what I would kind of like to point out is I've created this kind of demo sales events team inside our Microsoft Teams environment. I'm on the general kind of channel right now. And so these are called channels, and I'll show you a couple of cool features inside these channels here in a second. But one of the ones that I really like is you can click on this, and every one of these channels has an email address. And so I can click the get email address, and here is an email address that you can leverage to send an email that will show up as a post inside this Teams channel. So here's an example that I did yesterday. And so this is an email that I sent in to this Teams channel to make a post inside Teams for me. A couple of the other things that I did, this is a sample recording that I did yesterday as well. And I'll show you another way to kind of see those recordings and how we leverage a Microsoft tool called Microsoft Stream that's also part of 365. So when you record Teams meetings, it puts it into Microsoft Stream, which then you can access, later on. So these are called tabs up here at the very top. And so if you haven't used tabs before, there's a lot of different kind of tabs applications that you can use. This one is just a normal file one, and you can see that it created a folder here for my recordings. And so I can click on this recording that I did yesterday, and it will just pull up this sample meeting recording that I did yesterday, and you can view and share and do whatever you want to with that. I'll kind of jump back over here. A couple of the other things, this is a special Teams channel that I set up that is specifically for events. So if your team does a lot of events from a sales standpoint, you can create this kind of events channel to help you manage your events and to plan them out. So one of the tabs that gets created in this kind of demo and sample is just an overall event, about our event kind of tab that gives you the ability to do an overview and some details and where it's located and all that cool stuff. You can create a specific site that is done as a SharePoint site inside Teams, which is really cool. You can create a content scheduler, and these are all just different apps that I have installed is inside these tabs inside Teams. And so this one is about sharing content or creating a content schedule. If you've used Microsoft Planner before, you can integrate Microsoft Planner inside this. And so this is just an example of Planner that I'm using, where it's got, I created a to-do list. You can assign those to people. You can grab and drag, say, hey, we're in the middle of planning this. This one is completed. Again, just some examples of how you can leverage other kind of Microsoft apps inside of Teams. Meeting notes. And then there was one more that I was going to show, which is you can drop in and actually create a OneNote inside of Teams to use as one of your tabs up here. And then one of the other cool features that I found that I'll just kind of point out, and then Ted, I'll hand it back over to you. I believe I stuck it under planning. Yes. Okay. Under planning, I created this other app. I used this other app called Ideas. And so I thought this was really kind of cool as a way to get ideas from your team from a collaboration standpoint. So I created one yesterday that was basically what we call a campaign of different ideas. And so my campaign that I created was, Ted, Carl, do you guys want to go swim with some sharks? And so you
Sure.
can vote heck no, or you can vote let's go swim with sharks. So these were my ideas that I created, or you can create a separate idea of whatever you like, and then your team can use this to kind of vote on whether or not you want to go swim with sharks or whatever your other idea is that you want to try to do. So those are a couple of just kind of cool things that that we kind of use and leverage in Microsoft Teams, and a way to kind of better utilize Teams through your sales kind of process.
All right.
So, Sean, I'm gonna insert with a couple of quick questions here, because there's a couple of things I think you should also help people understand if they've never seen this before.
Okay.
How
Throw
did
me
you
your
create?
curveballs.
Yeah. How did you create that team and get all those things in there, and how much time did that take?
Okay, so that's a great question. So really simple, just to come down right here to this bottom section to create a new team. Microsoft has done a great job of creating some, and I'll just kind of start one of these. You can start it from scratch, you can do it from a group, or you can pick from some of their templates. Like they've got templates for onboarding an employee or managing a project. I picked this one that was managing an event. And a lot of the content and things that you saw in the channels and the tabs were just part of this template that I used. But they've got a number of different ones in here, tons of different ones that you can kind of pick from. Or if you want to just pick one from scratch, you can do that as well. And then once you kind of get in here, and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but this little plus sign here gives you the ability to add a new tab at the top. And this is just an example of some of the applications that integrate in with Microsoft Teams. You'll see that the top part of this is predominantly a lot of Microsoft tools like SharePoint and PowerPoint and things like that. But I can also scroll all the way down, and there are tons and tons and tons of pre-built applications that you can leverage and install inside your team to better manage not only your sales team, but your operations in general.
So, but I think a key element is like if one of those templates hits your needs, most of what you showed in that demo of the various tabs and applications installed just automatically was configured for you, including like the template websites that you could just edit up, and you don't really have to know how to code a website. You just start typing into there like
That's
editing.
correct. It took me probably 15 minutes to set this up yesterday, and I'd say 10 minutes of the 15 was me waiting on some of the applications to install.
Yeah. And I think another key thing is like you don't have to use templates. You can create them. You can add your own tabs. It can be web pages. It can be documents. It can be a lot of different things, or other apps. You can build them bespoke, and that doesn't take too long. And a lot of times you don't need one as complicated with all those elements. It just shows a little bit of the powerful nature of what you could do in Teams, if that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Okay, I want to remind the audience, if you have questions, go ahead and use the Q&A feature in GoToWebinar. And then I think what we should do is change gears. So Sean, thank you. Using Teams to collaborate externally. So like everybody's got a lot of experience using Teams internally, but you can use it to sell, to market, to collaborate externally. You need to think through how you actually set up meetings with people outside your organization to give them visibility to your calendar. That's why we showed you Calendly. You can record the sessions so that salespeople can be cross-trained. If there's a really good call, you can distribute the call recording You can go access streams included. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I mean, I think the idea for this webinar is Microsoft includes all of this awesome technology at no extra charge, but you got to like work to get in there and find how to enable all this technology. But Stream is right in there. So if you just go into your Microsoft 365 environment, Stream is provisioned for all licensed companies. And it's right there. And it's like a YouTube, internal YouTube for your company where you can record Teams meetings and use it for training. So, so awesome demo. Carl, we're going to hand the ball to you now and make you the presenter.
Oh, good luck.
All right. You should
this is
have.
where the webinar really goes off the rails. All right. Well, hopefully you guys are seeing my the screen with the PowerPoint here in just a minute.
We can.
Okay, great. Well, so I wanted to bring up an interesting problem, something that we see a lot of. But first of all, I just think there's just so much more to what Sean just showed that just you should be aware of. Like you can have it transcribe the video, it can live translate between languages. There's some really cool, powerful things. And so from our position, we're like, why would we pay for Zoom or other things when this is really integrated and doing it all in one place? And the user on the other end, if they're joining a meeting, don't have to be in Teams. They don't have to have Teams. They can just hit, I want to join via web. I think that's just an important piece. But one of the things that we see as a really common problem is the file collaboration piece. Now, I think you guys got to understand, this is going to be a bit of a nuanced point because Teams includes free file storage in a product called OneDrive or OneDrive for Business, depending on how you're interacting with it. And there's a lot of really good things about that. It's like when you're hitting a file tab in Teams, it could be a OneDrive tab that automatically is saving some things. And we really like using OneDrive as bespoke parts for a specific collaboration or project. Or for instance, we like the tight integration with the operating system with Windows 10 or Windows 11, where you can say, hey, back up the things on my desktop, back up my Documents folder. So if you lost that laptop for whatever reason, that stuff comes back really quick and easy. But when it comes to replacing a file server, which a lot of us are thinking about, like, how can I get rid of that server in my closet? All we use it for is our N drive or our S drive. That's a network file share coming off a server. That's where we run into a little bit of trouble with the OneDrive scaling or meeting your specific needs. And so sometimes we find an integration is better than the native OneDrive for Business. So one that we've been working with that you may not have heard of before is a product called Ignite. So we want to highlight how you can leverage other cloud file systems inside of Teams on top of or in addition to the OneDrive. And once again, we think of like OneDrive as having little tasks that it's really good at. And for a very small company, that may be all you need from a file sharing and a file sharing with your other co-employees. But if you're really trying to replace a serious file share, like what a law firm might use, or for instance, a client of ours is in engineering and they're doing AutoCAD files, that's particularly not easy to do inside of a OneDrive and have work well. Any kind of design files, significant size files, you get lots of synchronization problems with OneDrive, and it's really hard to do it for 20, 40, 50 people too, if that's the size of your organization, and make it really work, because there's some file size limitations and size of repository problems. And so once again, it just becomes almost easier to integrate something else with Teams. And just because OneDrive doesn't work for you doesn't mean that you can't use something else in conjunction. So that to me is a great hack for Teams. It's like you don't have to use the native stuff if you don't want to. And we really are big fans of what the product Ignite is doing, mostly because it's really good at replacing the file share motion from anywhere, but also because it has a really good ease of security and compliance, which is what a lot of our clients are looking for us to help. And it's certainly important for us internal as our IT clients expect us to do a great job with any data that we're working with from a security and compliance standpoint as well. And so I want to talk about that just a little bit here. Once again, I sort of got into some of this already, but sometimes it's complex and confusing to set up OneDrive to function for your business to really replace a file server or a set of file servers your organization might need. And if it's a serious size or any kind of significance, if it's in hundreds of gigabytes of size or even terabytes of size, it'll be very difficult to really fully replace that in a single repository, which means that you have to start stacking them together with SharePoint. And I don't want to get too nerdy here, but we do see this causing synchronization errors. We've even seen some file loss happens when people try to leverage this for very large data sets that a lot of businesses have. And once again, the security control in Teams, by the way, just so you know, when you first set up Teams, if you already have Teams, if you haven't had somebody who's professional actually look at the security setup of your Teams and your SharePoint and your email, it by default is actually not very secure in the setup. None of the services are that do these kind of things. So, and it's, in my opinion, kind of difficult for a person to know how to configure it securely on their own. Typically, a good professional once over of your security would be a good recommended thing. But when it comes to the file systems, in some ways we find tools like Ignite to be easier to manage the file system security part. And so those are some of the challenges we see with the integrated SharePoint OneDrive challenge. That you know, doesn't mean you can't use it or shouldn't, but it means that you might want to maybe a more nuanced approach. And so with that being said, I'll just switch over to the demo here portion and change which screen I'm sharing here real quick. Okay, so first I want to show you just how Ignite can work. I'm just going to show it with the wallpaper and the icons and everything. How Ignite will work in a little bit different than OneDrive, or in some ways that are perhaps even more secure. So I created a little folder in my Ignite. You'll notice that I've got a Z drive. This feels a lot like a network drive from a server. If I look at my computer here, you can see this drive here. This is really our Ignite drive, but you can see it works just like I had a USB drive plugged in or a network drive running from a server. But the advantage is this works from anywhere. It works on a mobile device. It works at my computer. And so I can move and save files back and forth without any issue. So you can see here's a file that's sitting in Ignite. It's a spreadsheet. I open it up and it's going to open on the other screen here. So I'll move it over here real quick. And here I'm just editing a normal Excel document like normal. But it's being saved in this Ignite thing, and I can easily interact with this and collaborate if I'm interested from Teams. One easy, quick way of doing that is simply with a right click. I could just come up here and I could go co-edit in Office, or if I don't even have Excel installed, I can say in Office Online and it will load the web version. So it's really nothing more than just a right click to open it, and then it will open it in that co-edited space, leveraging the Teams ability to do that while the file is still stored in Ignite. And that becomes a really great way to handle the collaboration, the exit and exit from anywhere we're looking for, that you can really do anything with a file like you could in a OneDrive, even though it's stored elsewhere. And so these are just some really cool, interesting things that you can do. But you could also notice you can easily drag and drop files in and out of this like you're used to with your file server. So it's a real advantage. The other thing I think is really helpful to look at here, I'll open this Word document here that's sitting in here. Hey, thanks for attending. One thing you can do is when you're saving a file, if you're open in Word or any other application, you can go to the Save As, and you'll notice there's an Ignite option right here that I can choose and simply save it in whatever folder in Ignite I want to save it in, just like I would a server drive. This is also what SharePoint does, but Ignite becomes the primary storage for that information. So it's easy to interact with it. I think another really kind of key point, and this is a real life hack moment for me, is you can be sending an email and you want to send somebody a file. Your IT people have probably told you stop using your Outlook like it's a file system or like it's your server. But what happens is we want to send people files, so we drop in attachments. Notice here this integration that says Ignite for Outlook. I can simply right from Outlook come in here and browse a folder, grab a file. Here's the PowerPoint from today. I can choose how I want to share it. Does it require a password? Will it expire? Or anybody who wants to see it can do it, or anybody in my company can see it and they don't have to do anything else. They just open the link. And once I have that the way I'm looking for, I just hit the button and here it is ready to go. And I can type my email, to go ahead and start working with this file. And they can access and interact with it. So it's pretty easy within Outlook to grab files out of the Ignite system, and they can still be co-edited from the Office 365 space. Lastly, the thing that I particularly like about Ignite is how it can function with a local sync server. And so it can still operate with high speeds on very large files, and it makes it really acceptable to use in things like AutoCAD or any other type of Adobe Creative Suite, large files that you need to edit. So our engineering, our marketing, our design customers really, really like this solution because it's all the flexibility of the cloud, and they can still work on these large files that really don't do well on most other file sharing solutions, including the OneDrive for Business or the SharePoint. So I don't know if that was short enough or good enough explanation, but I think I'm far enough that might have just got some people some ideas about how you can leverage a third-party tool, and one that we're pretty fond of, which is the Ignite tool.
Ted, you might be muted.
Thank you, Sean. Sorry about that. So Carl, can you actually reshare? Because I would like you to, yeah. I want to hit you with a couple questions.
Okay, great.
So if we go back to the File Explorer, can you explain to the audience what's the difference between the private and the shared folders there in your Z drive?
Sure. Yeah, good question. Now, I will admit I am an administrator, so I'm going to see this a little bit differently than your users do. But one of the really cool things about Ignite in general is when you have permission to something, it shows up. When you don't even see that it's there. It's not like you see a folder, you click on it or deny it. You just won't see it if you don't have permission to it. So the shared folder, this is like our company's network drive. These are the folders that are shared amongst people who have permission. Like, we have our Consummate all user shares. Like so many companies on their old file server, that was the P drive for public, right? And our marketing department, our HR, our finance, our operations team, so forth, so on. And so that's just like our file server, but of course in this cloud system. Every user also gets a private folder. In fact, many people are used to this on their file server if they're in that dynamic where they have, this is my personal space for saving files. And so when I hit this, I actually do see a link to everybody's, because as an administrator, as I'm logged in, I can do that. But I could go to my own personal one, and now these are just my files that I work on that, unless somebody has administrative access, nobody else sees this, right? But hopefully nobody's like surprised to hear that your IT administrators could access your public folders or your private files on your server right now. That works the same in these cloud systems. But this is my own space. And so I have a place to save my own files, interact with my own things, and then I have shared ones where the other coworkers access it, much like a file server used to be, right out of my Windows Explorer, so it's easy to interact and know where those files are and get to them.
Right, and I think the comment I want to make is everybody's got to kind of think through this. Like, the idea of the private folder is you always have a body of work that's kind of work in progress that you're the primary author or creator of. And, as Carl mentioned, like the super admins, they can get access to the private folder. But in general, like if you're making a marketing document, you don't want to turn it over to the sales team until it's ready. So you would leave that in your private folder potentially as the place where you work. And then the shared folder is where you put everything that needs to be shared. Every document that needs multiple people collaborating on it, departmental collaboration, you put it in the folders that are departmentally oriented. And that's the age. And so this is that's the benefit we've had of a file server for decades now. But what Ignite does is they've taken the file server experience and then made it cloud friendly and mobile friendly. So everything Carl showed, you can everything that Carl showed in the Windows File Explorer experience, you can also just go to a web browser and access all these same files from Ignite from the web. And I don't know, Carl, if you can quickly show
in fact,
that.
I'll show that real quick. Like here, I'm in my own personal folder, and I have this folder called Headshots. So this is pictures of our team that we did for Headshots. And so I can come up here. It's pretty easy to get to the cloud. I don't have to have it here to save. There's just one of the ways you can type it in a web browser too, but I can just right click and say View in Cloud. And it's going to pop it open inside my default web browser, already logged in and at that folder, ready to go, and I can interact with it via web. I can even drag and drop in and out of here as well. But I can select things and I can do things with them. But it's really cool. It's really easy to share a specific file or folder with somebody internal or external. If you want to say, hey, I'm going to send these files to you, you can do it from here as well, rather than out of the Outlook way. And then it'll create a link or it'll open your email for you. You can integrate other apps with it. You can copy, you can move things around. You can download them to your local computer if you are accessing by the web and you want it locally. And this is very similar to how it works from the Ignite mobile app on your iPhone or your Android phone, whatever that may be. So that's a pretty cool, easy way to pop in and do some of the web-based things, and it's fully functional here at the web level as well.
Okay, so you said something though, Carl, that I don't want people to miss out on. And so I've grabbed my phone. I'm going to hold this up here the best I can. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but
Kinda.
that is the Ignite app that Carl was just showing. And in fact, I used this last night on the way to the Atlanta United game because someone wanted me to look at a document. I pulled up my app and looked at the document just remotely on my phone. I use that all the time.
And it opens up Word or PowerPoint or Excel right on your mobile device. And admittedly, working on an Excel spreadsheet on your mobile device while you're watching a soccer game is pretty complicated. But in a pinch, it allows you to get a lot of stuff done when you're on the go. And
I think it's also worth saying from a security standpoint that you can share it. You can set up sharing in a way that somebody, for instance, can only view it and they can't download it. That's nice from a security standpoint. And then the other thing I didn't even bring up though, you can also come in here and you can request files from others. This is kind of a nice feature because it'll pretty much say you can send them a link. If you send it to multiple people, you can have it put it in different folders. But once I get this link, I can copy and paste this, email this link, and the person will receive it, click it, and they'll be able to drag and drop files or folders into that to send you files in a secure way. And so that process is pretty slick as well. So if like maybe you're a law firm and you want to get some files from opposing counsel or from a vendor, or you just work with a customer on your sales engagement and you want to send them some brochures, or you wanted to send them some documents so you could, refine your proposal or something like that. It's an excellent way to interact. So it has all the benefits of being a file server, but all the benefits of being a cloud file system that's available and interactable in a collaborative way. And so that's one of the reasons why we like this as well, is that total flexibility.
Right, and so there's a couple questions that came into the Q&A log. I want to address them. So Henry asks, can multiple people work on the same document at one time?
Yes, so you can do that. Office 365 and Teams naturally has ways of doing that, and Ignite has the same exact functionality. So if I'm here in this webinar, if I just want to say, okay, let's open it up where both will, I right click on it and I say co-edit in Office. That will open, since this is an Excel file, it'll open up an Excel, my regular full Excel app with all of its features and functions, and then anybody else can be invited to open that same link simultaneously, and it will co-edit. You can work at and collaborate. PowerPoints, Word documents, Excel, OneNote, any of this is co-editable. And if you don't have Excel installed or you just prefer the web version, you can do Office Online, and then it's the web version of Excel that loads instead of the local installed version of Excel. And so the newer versions of Microsoft Office do this quite naturally. And so now I'm in the online web version, and if there's somebody else invited to the same sheet, they could log in and we could be working on it, looking at it together while we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, just to give an example, like yesterday, I I tasked our sales team with actually working on the registration file for this event to add in some phone numbers for folks. And so I had literally 4 different sales folks acting as a team, collaborating on a single Excel file, all working in the file at the same time. So we're all familiar with kind of Google Sheets and how they kind of, Google got kind of a little bit of a lead in webifying apps. Microsoft is completely caught up. So working in Excel or Word or PowerPoint in the web versions is super close to the full like fat client on Windows. But the beauty is Ignite gives us all these other advantages, but it integrates totally seamlessly with the Microsoft Productivity Suite. So you really get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, but that being said, you could also integrate the Google Sheets if you wanted to. You could create tabs for that too. Teams is very flexible. You can really hack it up the way you want to do business. I think there's a lot to be said for keeping within the Microsoft ecosystem from a security and ease of use standpoint, but you can do both.
Right, and I'm gonna take back control, Carl, but throw you one more question from Ryan. So he says, how is this magic all backed up and secure? And then I'm going to take back control and get back into the PowerPoint. So go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, what a great question. So the reality of it is, and this is a great thing from a security and compliance, so for the spirit of this webinar is to show things you can do in Teams to life hack it or make it practical and applicable. But there are security things that still need to be done for your Office 365, as well as Google Workspace, if that's what you're working with instead, as well as other tools. I mean, they're just similar. And also along with those other tools, the main provider does not back up this data or document. Now, so if you are looking to back up your Teams or your email or things in SharePoint, you need to purchase additional third-party backup for that. It's typically fairly inexpensive, $1 or $2 a month per mailbox kind of thing. And it will do a great backup of what's in Office 365. Ignite itself has a file retention program and an ability to do archiving and back forth. So there is not a need, unless you want an offline copy, which you can sync if you want anytime. But there's ability to do offline copy. But in general, Ignite does not need a bespoke backup like you would want to do with Office 365. And so that could be a way where if you're storing your data in Ignite instead, it could be a little bit of a cost savings there, and that you don't need an additional backup for the Ignite like you do with Office 365. But to be perfectly frank, if a client of ours has Office 365 and has Ignite, and Ignite's our primary file share, we still recommend backing up Office 365 with a third-party backup that is easily accessed and easily set up and relatively inexpensive.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep trucking. We're gonna have more time for questions. I'm gonna try to blaze through this next section so we have more time for questions. So drop them in the Q&A log. What I'm gonna do in the next couple minutes is talk about how to organize your time better. And I'm gonna talk about 3 different Microsoft solutions, again, which are included in the Microsoft 365 suite. Microsoft To Do for tasks, Microsoft Bookings, and Microsoft Find Time. So first, a little bit about the problem. What problem are we dealing with? So tasks is a huge problem. We all get tasks or action items or to-dos coming out of meetings or in collaboration with clients, coming out of a client meeting. And the real challenge we all face in today's world is we have like what I would call task sprawl. You know, some of you might be old school and use a notebook. That's great. I've been doing that for years. We're all trying to find ways to use our mobile phones better and really try to make that the place for like tracking our day-to-day tasks. Sometimes your organization might have a third-party software application. Like we happen to use something called Bloom Growth for a lot of our meetings, and so a lot of tasks show up there. But anybody who's doing sales, who's in a CRM solution like HubSpot or Salesforce, you have tasks and to-dos related to your account coverage. So really, a huge problem is tasks get spread all over the place. And the main thing I want to share is just show you what a great job Microsoft is doing, in my opinion, of giving you a very good task manager and in the form of Microsoft To Do. It doesn't solve every problem. Sometimes you have to do some custom development to get some of your tasks and to-dos to show up in Microsoft To Do. But if you're trying to find a way to at least standardize on how you manage your tasks, Microsoft To Do is something that I would strongly endorse, and I'll show you why in a couple minutes here. The other challenge I want to talk about, and Sean kind of touched on this earlier, at the headline, one of the things we're talking about was, when you start using something like Microsoft Teams externally, and you're trying to do meetings, externally with folks, and that starts picking up the pace, the huge challenge is that people can't see your Microsoft Outlook calendar if they're outside your organization. So scheduling meetings internally with either Outlook calendar or Teams is drop dead simple. It's bi-directional, it's transparent, you can see things. But the problem is when you start collaborating externally, and this is a photo from LinkedIn of one of our clients, Tatiana Ardabili. And the big challenge is when you start to collaborate externally with other people, they can't see your calendar unless you use something like Calendly, which is what Sean showed earlier. And so if you're using Teams for sales, the thing you're going to run into immediately with trying to get prospects onto a video call with you is you've got to give them a self-serve experience to actually find time on your calendar when it's convenient for them, convenient for you, available for you on your calendar, and you could very easily organize that meeting. So we want to solve that problem. And then the problem gets even more complex when you start to do collaboration with multiple companies. So very commonly, you're trying to set up a video-based call with 3, 4, 5 different business leaders from 5 different organizations, that's even more complex, and usually chaos reigns. I mean, nobody wants to digest 20 different emails trying to get one call set up. So you need technology solutions to do that. So what I want to do in the next couple minutes is just show some of the technology on how you can go ahead and do this. So let me find where I'm supposed to be. Let's get to here. Okay, so the first thing I want to show is, where do you find these apps? Where do you find bookings? Where do you find, where do you find To Do? And let's start with To Do. So if you go to your Microsoft 365 web portal, you click here on the waffle icon. That kind of always takes you back and can get you access to where all of the apps live. And so what you see is there's just a ton of stuff in here. And what we're trying to do today is just give a thumbnail sketch of all of these. So let's talk about To Do. We'll look at it in a couple ways in a couple minutes here. And then I'm going to also switch gears and talk about bookings. So right here, you can see that if you just log into your Microsoft 365 portal, go to your personal experience, click on the waffle icon, you'll see all the apps available. And here's where you find To Do, here's where you find bookings. Okay, so first of all, To Do. So this is your task manager. And what I love, some of the things I love about To Do is that it's web friendly, mobile friendly, integrated with your Outlook client as well. So let me show you that. So right now, what I've done is I've got a couple test To Do items here: research webinar demos, create webinar slides, set up webinar practice session with Carl and Sean, teach clients how to use tasks and teams. So here are these different To Dos. And I'm here in the web-based version of To Do. But what you also see is that dynamically, here's the FAT client. So on my Windows machine, I have To Do here. And what you see is all of these tasks are duplicated right here in the FAT client version. Now, what you also see is if you go over to Outlook, so here's your inbox, here's your calendar, and right here, nested right in the Microsoft app is your To Do here. And here are those tasks again. So if you complete one, basically you mark that off. When you toggle around to all the different environments, you're gonna see those tasks disappear. Here's what the mobile version looks like. So To Do is just super powerful, super well designed, super intuitive, and it's something I really highly endorse for everybody. So let's talk about another solution. Let's change gears. So we talked about the challenges of scheduling meetings with people externally to your organization. Sean showed you Calendly. So Calendly, I think got an early lead 5 or 6 years ago. Super popular, very successful company. The way it fits into today's conversation is they have a very slick integration with Teams. So you can use Calendly as a way, and the Microsoft Calendar. So you can use Calendly as a way to show your calendar to your prospects or business partners. They could set up meetings dynamically. You could make it so it automatically populates the Teams information right into the calendar invite that shows up on your calendar. That's beautiful. The reality is Microsoft also has a competitive solution that you can get access to for free, and it's called Bookings. And Bookings, again, you could access it right back here on the main Microsoft portal. But what Bookings allows you to do is to create a scheduling tool that you can use for external audiences, just like we showed today. And just like Sean showed with Calendly, you can go in and create an additional option on your calendar. So I want to create an option for a 45-minute meeting, and you can just go in. It's super simple to set up. Do I want this private? Do I want it public? Do I want to integrate a Teams meeting in there? And then bang, all you do is you go and add it. Now I'm presenting my audience with a 1-hour meeting, a 15-hour meeting, a 30-hour meeting, a 45-minute meeting. And all you do to share your calendar, your external bookings opportunity, is just copy the link, go over to your Outlook. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to share it, but test of bookings, you drop it in there and then you send it off. And then here I'm over on my Gmail, which is where I just sent that. And I don't use my Gmail very much. If you don't use a certain email account, it starts to look very messy. So please, my apologies for the messy view here. But basically, here's that meeting. So I've sent it to my personal email address. Here's the link. I click on this, and then it serves me up my options to go ahead and find a time on Ted's calendar when he's free. So on March 10th at 2:30, I can go ahead and pick the time and tell him, yes, hey, book the time, book the meeting. So that's bookings, and super, super convenient and helpful to get you collaborating externally with folks. So now the last thing I want to show you, and then we'll go to some more formal Q&A, is I want to talk about Find Time. So Find Time is the solution where you're trying to collaborate and set up meetings with multiple people outside your organization. So what you want to do to demo this, I need to add another email address. So I'm going to use my Yahoo account now. And what you do with Find Time is here, well, I mean, in reality, the main scenario you're often doing is you have like 5, 6, 7 people all need to be in a meeting, and let's find time to meet with Find Time. And so you put in the different meeting recipients, and then what you do is you send out a scheduling poll to the audience. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay, it's a little hidden under here of the GoToWebinar thing. Okay, so over here, I can say, okay, I ideally to collaborate with these 3 or 4 people. I want to collaborate ideally I want to meet on the 8th of March. And here are all the times on my calendar which are free and available. And I'm going to be very easy on everybody and give them a nice like 3 or 4 hour window. And then I'm able to just basically click next, create a poll. And then what it's doing is it's spawning a Outlook email, and then I'm sending this off to them to say, hey, tell me when you can meet. And then what you see is that and this could take a moment or two. But basically what ends up happening is, oh, there it is. So it came in. So here's the email from Ted at SnapTech IT to Ted's personal email. And I'm now soliciting a vote on where you want to, when do you want to meet? And so you can go here and say, I am actually not available till 11:30 that day, but the rest of the day I don't have anything on my calendar. I'm going to let Ted know that those are the times that work for me, and you submit your poll, and then you're done. And the beauty of what happens next is that after everybody weighs in on the poll, you can actually configure it so that it will automatically then set up the meeting. And so if you send it out to 4 people, everybody weighs in, there's this one magical time that works for all of us. The Outlook will actually generate the calendar invite, send it out with your team's meeting invite, and then you're done. So Find Time is a fantastic way to just organize people, get people. Let me see here. Now I'm just trying to get back to my slides. Got a lot of stuff open here. Okay, I think it's over here. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna get back in here. So anyway, so we looked at bookings, we looked at To Do, and we looked at Find Time. And those are some ways to get your time back and to leverage some of these free and included Microsoft tools included in the suite that are there for everybody. So, Carl and Sean, any questions for me on that section while I dive back into the Q&A log?
No, that was awesome.
I don't have a question so much as a comment. I mean, if we've shown you something that you hadn't thought of before, or didn't know was there, or didn't know is freely available as part of it, because the reality is many of you probably have this, you just want to know better ways to use it. This is only the tip of the iceberg. There's really a lot of things. This is a big active area of development. This is leveraging the functionality of the cloud, and think of the ways you can add collaboration or efficiency with your team, especially at any location or on any device. And that's where this is really driving you towards.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out, so Ginny asked a question, would you show the app to download onto my phone again? I mean, I think the thing, you have to really like work super hard to set up a demo where you're demoing stuff on a mobile device. It's possible, done it before. It's really quite challenging. And so we didn't have a ton of like live demoing from our iPhones or our Android devices today. But the beauty is everything we showed today, using Teams on your mobile device, totally effective. Like, host. I mean, it's a little risky to host a call maybe on your iPhone for Teams, but it can be done. But joining calls from a mobile device with Teams, super effective. Carl talked about how to use Ignite. I think Sean talked about how he's using Ignite on his mobile device when he's on the go. Everything I just showed you with like Teams and bookings. I mean, with bookings and To Do. I mean, I use To Do all the time on my mobile device. So all of these apps are super mobile friendly. I mean, Microsoft is dead serious about leading in the mobile experience for sure.
Well, and just to make it very simple, in case there's people just like, well, so what do I do? Go to the Microsoft website or what? It really, they're all just in the Apple Store or the Google Play. Just type in Microsoft, you'll see all the apps that they have, or these other products we talked about, Calendly or Ignite, that are integrated ones we've added to our particular team's point of view. These are all really just sitting in the App Store, and most of them are free to download, but you just need to have an account to log in with that you've set up. So.
Right, and let's take one more. We've got time for 2 or 3 more questions, so please drop them in. But Brenda says, what's the benefit of Calendly versus the Outlook calendar where you can create a Teams meeting as well? So I think we maybe answered this, but maybe, I think a comment I'll make is that like maybe why use Calendly versus bookings? And I would argue, so this is one of those things, just like the conversation we had about file collaboration and Ignite. Microsoft is incredibly powerful because they have this massive suite that almost does everything. But there is an entire software ecosystem. You could actually argue the entire rest of the software ecosystem is simply there to compete against Microsoft and create best of breed applications. So I would argue that like Calendly has a couple of year lead over Microsoft in this one niche area of external calendar collaboration, I would say. And Calendly is pretty slick. Like you can set up, like Carl, if anyone gets an email from Carl's Calendly is set up where you as the meeting participant can select whether you want the meeting to be Teams or Zoom,
or
which
just
is
a phone,
just a phone call, which is a pretty cool feature of Calendly. So in general, bookings is, I would say, okay. But Calendly is a little better because they have a couple more years lead, and they would be considered what you might call like a best of breed application approach.
Yeah, but it's an additional cost. But maybe just from an end user's perspective, I could add one other quick thought on this. It's like, look, if I'm talking to somebody on the phone and we already know we're going to meet, or I'm trying to meet with a coworker and I can use something like the scheduling assistant to see when they're available, just in Outlook, just create a new meeting and the Teams button is there, make the Teams meeting super easy. Book it like that, no problem. This is all about those awkward calls that so many of us get, particularly with external people like a sales opportunity, a client, a vendor, or somebody you just want to meet with. And you're like, well, when can you meet? And you start sending the email like, well, I got Tuesday from 3 to 4. I got Wednesday from 1 to 2. I got Friday nothing. On Monday, I've got this. And you start writing all this down. And then they've got to look at it and compare to the search. When you send them a Calendly or even a bookings link, they can just click and look at your schedule and look at their own and go, oh, that's when I'm available. And I know they're available. Click, meeting booked. And so it's a self-serve. I think that's a key piece if people didn't understand that. This isn't about like, you never go into Microsoft and just on the calendar start a new meeting. This is about finding the time or figuring out places so you don't have to have all those back and forth emails to figure out when you should send a scheduling link for.
Yeah, self-serve is super powerful for everybody. And whether it's Calendly, bookings, find time, that's what this is all about, is just making it the experience as efficient for everybody involved as possible.
Okay.
So hopefully this was an efficient use of your time and you saw some things that, really can help you and your organization. We're always here at the SnapTech team to help clients adopt these technologies, take it to another level, securely deploy it, securely configure it. So please reach out to your account manager if you have some follow-up questions, or if you're interested in starting to work with a managed service provider that has all this expertise. Please reach out to your salesperson. I want to invite everybody to next month's webinar. We are inviting an industry expert, Joseph Brunsman, who literally has written several books on cyber liability insurance. The bestsellers, the only bestsellers on cyber liability insurance that you can find on Amazon, he wrote them. So this guy is a bona fide expert, and cyber liability insurance is an area that is super complex, continuing to evolve, and continuing to give curveballs to management teams all over the United States today. So really encourage you to join us on next month's webinar to learn more about what's happening with how to add in this important layer of insurance in your risk management strategy in your organization. So please look for an email from us on that, and always visit the SnapTech website to get a hold of us, reach out and find more educational information. A recording of this session will be on our YouTube channel, and we thank you for joining us. And Carl and Sean, thank you guys very much for co-hosting today's event with me.
Absolutely.
That was good.
Thanks. Good to see everybody.
Okay. All right. Take care, and we'll see you on next month's webinar. See you now.